Hi, I'm Clara Rose, and you are watching Influence Matters, sponsored and brought to you by Rosedale Publishing. Each week, join me, and I will share tips, tricks, tools, resources, secrets, and hacks for savvy influencers just like you who want to strategically and intentionally grow and build their influence. Before we get started, I wanted to talk to you really quickly about what influence is and what influence is not. So influence is not coercion or manipulation so that you can make somebody do something you want them to do, like buy your product or your service, for instance. What influence is the ability to affect change. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. What might come to mind when I say influence or influencer is somebody who is a professional, maybe a ball player or an actress or an actor, somebody who's in the limelight. Now that's a form of influence for sure that they have, but it's really a different kind of influence that I'm talking about today. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But first, let's just jump right in and talk about the 3 quickest ways to build influence for yourself, for your business, your ministry, your cause, whatever you're trying to accomplish. Okay, let's have a really quick look at the 3 pieces of influence that are just quick and easy for you. Now, I say quick and easy, and the first one you're going to go, Clara, that is not quick and easy. But I promise, it's not as scary as it sounds. First, let's talk about writing. We're talking about writing for your influence, speaking for your influence, and of course, leading for influence. Let's talk first about writing, shall we? Okay. Now, you know I'm going to say you need to write your book. If you are building influence, working on building influence, you know you need to write a book, right? We see other people doing it. The gurus and the experts out there are saying, you got to write a book. All right, so it's not as scary as it sounds. Writing a book is really just about the process of getting what you have in your head. We all have a story. We all have something to share. We all have a message, right? So it's about getting it out of your head and getting it onto paper where we can do something with it. So finding someone to help you with that is a really important step. And of course, that's something that I offer, but we're not here to talk about that today. Getting it brainstormed, blueprinted out of your brain where you can do something with it. Now, writing a book really is going to be a process. I know there are some people out there doing the, weekend book. Well, I see people putting work out there in a weekend. I'm a little hesitant about it just because I don't feel like you can really dig deep and get the good stuff into your book in a weekend. Most of my authors take about 6 months from start to finish. Some people are a little faster, some people are a little slower, depending on how dedicated they are to their project and how much writing they actually do. So it takes putting your butt in the seat to actually get your book done. Now, there are other kinds of writing, right? We don't have to just have a book, although that's the quickest way. Let's look at some ways that you might be able to, other ways that you might be able to write for influence. So let's look at this next slide, okay? Let's talk about, beside your book, what else you might be looking to write to build some influence, okay? You could be publishing in a magazine. You could be publishing newsletters. How about email marketing? How about any other form of written content? So anywhere that you publish something is an effective tool for influence. Not as effective perhaps as your book, but absolutely also effective. So what about in a magazine? How do you get in a magazine? Well, there's some specific steps to finding someone to listen to what you have to say and getting in a magazine. So a good query letter, talking to the right person who takes submissions for their magazine, Trust me, every single magazine is looking for content. Every single place where there's a written piece of content, whoever the editor is or who's compiling it, they are dying for content, I promise you. Reaching out to them and saying, hey, I have an idea for an article. Are you interested? Is the first step toward getting yourself published. Getting published in a national trades magazine that's relevant to your industry is like gold. So I encourage you to follow up on that one for sure. Email marketing, of course, we all know that email marketing is effective and no email's not dead, so don't give up on that one. Newsletters, we don't see them as much, but I think they're still really effective ways getting your words in front of someone else super consistently. Okay, so let's move on to, so we've talked about writing, speaking, and leading. Let's move on to speaking. Now, before you freak out about speaking and think, I don't want to public speak. It is, of course, the number one fear for most people, public speaking. They'd rather die than public speak. Now, I'm not that person, but I understand the anxiety that it can give you. So let me put your mind at ease. If you want to be a public speaker and you want to be the person on the big stage, awesome. Because guess what? You already have the book, right? We already talked about the book. If you have a book and you're on a big stage, that's gold right there. You have the ability to affect change in a really big way. Okay, if you're thinking, Clara, there is no way that I could get in front of a big crowd. I have no desire. I'm like, okay, let's find you a small stage, someplace where you can get in front of a small group of people that you can share your message with. Now, you still want to get I'm going to call it your signature speech. Don't let that scare you, because I'm not talking big stage here. I'm talking small stage. Let's talk about that small place where you can go and use your signature speech or your topic and create some influence for yourself. So I love the way that Webster says about influence, the capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone or something. That's what we're really trying to do, right? We're trying to have an effect on someone's behavior or thought. That's what influence really is. So if you can get up in front of any crowd that you'd like to share your message with, it can be a small stage. It's going to create influence for you. Now think about this. If you are a business owner or a professional, networking is usually already built right in, right? That should be built into your daily, at least weekly business plan, right? So you're already out there networking. You already have those little audiences that you can talk to. If you are terrified of speaking, start small. So perhaps volunteer or ask the leader, can I, do a 10-minute presentation? Most of them will say yes, absolutely. Especially if you meet weekly, they are absolutely looking for people to get up and share. Plus, you're a member, right? So they want to highlight you. They care about your business being successful. So they want you to stand up and speak. So start small. Now, if that still terrifies you, I recommend that you join. Now, don't roll your eyes, because I can feel you rolling your eyes already. I recommend that you find a group that lets you practice in a safe way, right? And so that might be a Toastmasters. They're specifically to practice speaking. So the people who are listening, they know you're there to practice. And they're there to encourage, support, and give you feedback. What a perfect place to learn to speak in front of people. People who are going to lovingly, encouragingly help you get better at what you do. That's like the perfect spot. I love that. If you're not a fan of Toastmasters, I say give it a shot. Give it a shot and see if it doesn't make you a better speaker. Okay, so we're going to move on from speaking, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to hone that particular skill set. Get some sort of comfort speaking in front of even small groups of people. Okay, I've bemoaned and belabored that long enough. Let's talk about leading. Now, leadership comes easy to some people and not so much to other people, but there are different ways that you can lead that will help you get influence quickly. I always like to tell this story. When I was first starting to take all of the pieces of my business development with my clients and add that leadership piece. I went and found an organization that I still love to this day. It was the Association for Talent Development, or it is the Association for Talent Development. It was ASTD for like 80 years or whatever. So I went to the very first meeting. I'm like, okay, these are trainers, developers of training. These are my people, right? I could find a place here to lead, right? Now, leadership will sometimes cost you something, right? If it's not in a professional capacity, it's going to cost you your time. So you're going to be giving of your time. That's one of your resources. So I go to the very first meeting and I sit in this room full of people that I've never met before. And at the end, wonderful speaker, wonderful meal. At the end, the president of the chapter stands up and says, we are looking for some board members for this coming year. And we have a brand new position called registrar, and we need someone to fill it. Clara raises her hand. Now, I'm not a member, right? I'm just thinking, oh, this is a really great opportunity for me to get my face in front of people, lead, right? So this is a very small leadership role for me, but I sat at the front checkout, right? The registrar, every single person that walked through that door, guess who they spoke to? Me, right? That was my opportunity to learn their name. They learned my name because I'm checking them in, right? On the little laptop that they had for me, checking them in. Did you pay? Did you pre-register? I'm checking people in. Now, in a year's time, everybody knew me and I knew everybody in that organization. That's leadership, right? I stepped into a volunteer position on purpose so that it benefited me. Now, it benefited the organization as well, right? The organization has grown and changed. I spent about 5 years on the board. I was their president. I spent a year, it's a 3-year term. I was president-elect, president, and immediate past president. Really wonderful people, wonderful opportunity. I created a lot of influence for myself, and I made a difference in their organization. That's the kind of leadership that I'm really talking about. Now, you might say, oh, I'm not interested in showing up to talk to, at an association of some sort like that. Oh, that's not me. Okay, that's fine. Find something else. What do you care about? What does touch your heart? What does matter to you? I guarantee you that all around you, there are organizations, nonprofits, who are looking for volunteers to show up, speak up, and make a difference. And you will, I promise, gain some influence when you step into those roles, even very small roles. I always recommend the registrar type position, right? I always recommend that, especially in a new organization. It gives you the most exposure, which is going to give you influence the most quickly. But anytime you sit on the board, which all of the positions that I've been in have been board positions, on purpose, because now you have a voice. You care more about what happens in this organization. You are literally showing up, giving of your time. You are speaking up because you're helping to influence and grow this organization or make a difference in it. It's the making a difference that makes you feel good, right? It's that making a difference that makes you go, wow, I'm passionate. I am passionate about West Pasco Business Association. I sit on the advisory board because I'm passionate about them, but also because it gives me a position of influence. It helps me show up, speak up, make a difference in growing this organization that I love. Okay, kind of enough on the soapbox there about what I've done, but I challenge you to take some time, find an organization that matters to you, a cause, a movement, something that speaks to your heart and that really does matter to you, and find a place to connect and build some influence for yourself. Okay, now that wasn't so scary, right? All right, so we're going to recap all of the steps that you can take to help build some influence. So let's start with write. We talked about the book. Just adding title, author, behind your name is going to open doors that you never dreamed possible. Publishing any content is going to make a difference. So remember, that's not just your book, although that's the fastest and the number one way is to write your book. There's lots of people out there who can help you with that. And of course, I help with that as well. Rosedale does that as well. Anywhere you can write. guest post on someone else's blog, start your own blog, do a newsletter if you have a nice email list to send it out to. Of course, do email marketing if you have a list to market to. And magazines, any place where it's relevant to your industry. So if you're a real estate agent, what magazines out there support your industry, right? Maybe you're a chiropractor. I bet there's magazines out there that will support your industry. Look for places where you can put your work. They're probably not going to pay you for it. Sometimes I get paid, but sometimes I don't get paid for it. But my name is in their magazine. My picture is in their magazine. I get that byline, by Claire Rose. And that's what I'm really after, is that intentional, strategic influence that comes from that. Okay, so speaking. Let's touch on that really briefly again. Remember, I'm not saying you have to get on a big stage if you're terrified of that. If you're not terrified of that, awesome. Create a signature speech and spread your message to the world. If you are terrified of that, take some baby steps, small steps towards building your influence through speaking, getting on that small stage that's going to let you practice, but also give you the opportunity to say, here's who I am, here's what I have to offer, here's my message that I've crafted or created for the world. Get out there and find places to speak. Get on the stage, if you will, or at the very least, find networking places where you can plug in and share your message in a less scary way. And of course, find yourself a Toastmaster or other organization that will help you to hone those skills. I promise you it's going to be worth it, and you're going to build influence in a crazy way. Okay, and then of course, leading. Leadership is probably the hardest one for some people, but it's also the easy one for people who feel like they're not really ready to get out there in the world with a book, or they're definitely not going to speak. We can all find a place to lead and make a difference in the world around us. Okay, so some of the things that we're going to talk about in the coming weeks, remember I'm going to be here every week talking about strategically and intentionally building your influence. So we're going to talk about other ways that you can get out into the world, some productivity hacks, some resources, some tools. I really wanted to just dig in today and talk about some of the basics since this is our very first show. And I'm so excited that you've joined me on this first show. But join me each week and we will cover all of the different ways that you might not even think of to build some influence for yourself. Yes, I'm going to encourage you to write your book. But if you can't start there, start someplace, right? Start with that newsletter, that magazine article, that whatever it is that you can start with. And just kind of on a side note there, while I love the enthusiasm that some of you have, be sure that you find a good editor. It doesn't have to be me, but I'm just telling you that everyone needs a good editor. When we write, we read what we think we wrote. Does that make sense? So we'll write something, and it makes perfect sense to us because in our head, we think we said what we wanted to say. But when you send it off to someone to have a look at it and to do an edit on it, you may find you didn't really write what you thought you wrote. Even I, who edit professionally, on a daily basis, I'm editing, I have an editor because I still read what I think I wrote. So it's an important thing if you're going to put stuff out into the world that somebody else's eyes have also seen it as well. It's not just you seeing it. A good trick if you don't have an actual editor that you're going to pay for that service is to let it cool, right? So write something and then set it aside. It's called a cooling period. Then come back to it maybe a day or two later. Yes, that takes some pre-planning, but come back to it later, open it up, and read it again. The longer it can cool, the better chances that you're going to catch something that you thought you said, but you didn't really say. And then, of course, please spell check because it really does matter. And spell check nowadays, of course, also has all sorts of cool grammar stuff. So, and grammar matters, right? How we say things really does matter. I promise you, it can be super embarrassing to put something out there into the world in a written format and then have someone go, oh, oops, there was a typo there. Or, maybe something that you had unintentionally said that could be taken in more than one way. So I encourage you to find an editor if you don't have one that you call on. I'm happy to speak with you. Okay, enough about writing. Let's talk about speaking really quickly again. Speaking, of course, is my one of my favorite ways to get my message out into the world. It's super easy, comes easy for me, and I love people. I love to educate people and impart knowledge to people. And that, I think, helps me to be a better speaker. So when you're thinking about speaking, small or large stage, think about, what is my message? What do I have to say? And am I there to impart knowledge? Or am I there to just get leads for my business, or just, gimme, get for yourself? Because how you go into it and your motivation will make a difference. Right? People want to learn from you. People love to learn new things, as a matter of fact. So if you can come at it from that perspective, they're going to appreciate that you are transferring knowledge from yourself to them, what you have to offer the world to them, in such a way that they're going to benefit, right? They get a takeaway from it. So just think about that as you're putting together your little talking points or your speech, whatever it is, that you're really making a difference in their world. And then lastly, before we wrap up, of course, is leadership. And you know that I have a heart for that, and I love that piece of it. It's also the quickest, because you can lead tomorrow. Right? You're not going to write your book tomorrow. We could start your book tomorrow, but it's going to be a while before it's done, right? Speaking, you could find a place to speak tomorrow, but it's going to take you some time to put together your PowerPoint and your talking points and make the arrangements and all those things. But leadership is something you could do tomorrow. Maybe sit down with a tablet and say, okay, what do I care about? Right? What do I care about in my community? What matters to my business? Is there some place where I can go lead and make a difference that's relevant to my particular industry? I bet that there is, if you think about it hard enough. So take your list and say, okay, who can I contact to find out about these things? Well, it was easy for me for WPBA, the West Pasco Business Association, because I know them, right? I've been involved for a while and I know them. And I know their heart, and I love what they do in the community. So that was easy for me. But sometimes I have to work a little harder. Like, ooh, that organization matters to me. Who do I talk to get an opportunity to make a difference? Where can I go? Who can I talk to that can get me to the places I need to be to show up, speak up, make a difference? If you're not ready to step into leadership yet, get involved in other ways. They're always looking for volunteers to man the front table, go get sponsors for an event. There's always ways to get involved. And as you become involved, pretty soon you're going to get comfortable with those people who will make it possible for you to be on the board, or who will make it possible for you to show up, speak up, make a difference. Okay, so as we wrap up today, I just want to reiterate this one thing to you. Influence is not accidental. Influence is strategic and intentional. If you want to build influence that will generate more leads for your business, ministry, or cause, you're going to need to do it in a strategic and intentional way. It's got to be on purpose. So sit down and create a plan for yourself to create some influence. So influence is definitely built success for a lot of people, and it will build success for you as well. So I like this mantra that I say all the time. Success is a matter of influence, but influence is not accidental. It happens when we strategically and intentionally put together a plan. It takes tools, resources, and a strategic plan in order to make it happen. So I thank you for taking this time with me today. I appreciate you joining me on this journey each week as I share tips, tricks, tools, resources, hacks. It's going to help you to be a savvy influencer, and it's going to help me to become a more savvy influencer. I'd like to invite you, if you have suggestions for me to use on the show, to email me. You can email me at hello@clararose.com, and I'd be happy to take your suggestions. And if I use your suggestion on the air, I will use your name and business as well. You're also welcome, if I use yours, welcome to send me a mug or something that I can show off on your behalf to help you build influence in one more way. right? Because we're all on this journey together, right? We all have a mission, a cause, something we care about, a business that we're trying to grow, and together we can do some really incredible things. Look for opportunities all around you where you can collaboratively work with another individual to help both of you to grow your influence. So I hope today that I have encouraged you and given you some tools to help you become a savvy influencer. I'd love to have you on my Facebook page. We have a private group there. You can ask to join. I have a couple questions for you, but I'd love to see you over on Influence Matters Facebook page. And I invite you to collaborate with me as together we work to show up, speak up, make a difference in the world around us, and grow influence for ourselves. Okay, I'm going to check in with you next week, so we will see you back here every Friday. I believe we're at 2, and I look forward to getting to know you better on this journey. All right, what do we say? Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, behavior of someone or something, right? Because success is a matter of influence, but influence is not accidental. Okay, guys, next week, same time, same bat channel. Oh, can I say that? Yeah, that's funny, right? Same time next week. I appreciate all of the feedback that I'm getting already, and I look forward to making a difference in your world. Thank you so much.